How y'all doing? My name is Daniel. Long story short, I did 2 tours to Iraq. I did 6 years out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I medically retired from the Army at age 23 due to injuries that occurred during my second deployment to Iraq. I was U.S. Army Infantry. And if you want more about my background and stuff like that, you can go to my videos and it'll say Soldier Talks about 2 Iraq deployments or something to that effect. And then it's about 3 to 4 minutes of I tell more about my record. So what I'm going to talk about today is what happens is whenever you are injured so much that you can no longer be in the military, whether what kind of injury it is you go through what's called a med board process. And before you actually initiate your med board process, the final thing you do before the Army actually admits to you and to itself that your shelf life is up, that's what they call it, that your shelf life is up. That's how they see us, but that's how they would tell you, is that you have a phase 3 physical. And phase 3 physical is basically your last physical, so that you can claim any injuries that you have. And once you do your phase 3 physical, you aren't supposed to be doing any more physical exercises. You're not supposed to be going out into the field anymore to do, the training, because if you re-injure yourself, then you have to start the whole process all over again. And then you could, you would have a reason to reclaim another injury, and they don't want to take the chance of doing that. So what I'm going to talk about is, and what MedHold is that you get transferred from your unit to another unit that is nothing. The MedHold unit at Fort Campbell, Kentucky consisted of anywhere from 400 to 600 wounded soldiers. These are amputees, people with extreme burns, gunshot wounds. I mean, all the wounds from war. These are those people. And what I'm going to talk about today is the extreme neglect and abuse that went on at that unit, and that I had to live with 7 months before I got out. Now, what I'm about to say may seem harsh, but it's all true. And get cheaper on this matter. Medical. At the MedHold unit, what happens is you get there, and I would start with that. Once a month, you would have what's called a town hall meeting. I mean, like what McCain wanted to have, and you would go there and basically get an update. And it started out, the first town hall meeting that they had, because I was there when that unit started, about a month after it started, it started about 15 minutes. They give you general information about what's going on and stuff like that. And within 2 months, it had evolved into a 3 to 4 hour, and this is at night. They would wait until 7 o'clock at night to make you come and do this. Or they would either have it at 7 o'clock at night, or they would have it at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got out during the winter. So they would have us go to the theater on post at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and you would have 400. I'm not joking. They would separate it because the theater wasn't that big, but they would have it on 2 separate days. This specific day, it was snowing outside. They had us out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is amputees, more than 100 amputees, arms and legs, people in wheelchairs. And they had us standing out in front of that theater at 3 o'clock in the morning, waiting to get into the theater at 4:30. So they had us standing out in the snow, amputees out there in crutches. It was frozen. It was 3 to 4 inches of snow on the ground. It was 12 degrees outside. I remember because I looked it up, and I've been writing my journal ever since to make sure that I would have this information when I got out. If I was going to tell my story, I'm writing a book right now, and it's slow coming. But out of that entire formation, 3 soldiers got pneumonia. 1 soldier had to have a second surgery because whenever he was walking, and this is just that I know of, but whenever he was walking from his car on the ice to go to the theater, this is the soldier that was missing 1 leg, mind you. Not going to be in the military. Well, he should be at home with his family and not having to go to these things at 3 o'clock in the morning. But he actually slipped with his crutches and fell, and his stump, I hate to say it like that, I don't know what else to call it, but his leg, where the amputee was, it actually impacted the ground and re-injured. I believe it, from what my understanding was, he refractured his femur and tore up his whole leg. Another soldier had slipped. This is just this day, and there was literally dozens of injuries due to them making us, because every single time we walked out of the barracks, in Kentucky, it gets cold, it's snowing, it's frozen. Every time we walked out of those barracks, these soldiers with crutches, some of them, I had vertigo, so my inner ear balance is off. I'm completely deaf in my right ear, and I only have about 30% in my left ear. I can't hear I can't hear consonants, I only can hear vowels, which is like 96% of the human language, of the English language. So they would constantly have these soldiers walking out and continually injuring themselves. And the atmosphere there was so hostile. They actually had drug dogs. Just it felt like a concentration camp. You would walk out of your room and there would be MPs monitoring the hallways with German shepherds. And these German shepherds are not well trained. These are drug dogs, not meant to be around other people. And one of the soldiers actually got bit there on the second floor. He didn't try to pet or anything. He was walking by, and I guess the soldier didn't like the sound of his crutch going by, and he bit his hand. And the MP had to get the dog off of him. So this is the environment that they put your war heroes in, and it was just constant fear. There was nonstop complaints, IG, Inspector General complaints. They received hundreds of them. The Wounded Warrior Care Program, the Wounded Warrior Hotline received hundreds of phone calls about this, and nothing during the 7 months I was in, nothing changed. What else was I going to say? They would demote you. These are soldiers who have Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, and they would come back. Like, I had no hearing in my ear, and they actually tried to demote me. Whenever I roll over in my sleep, if I roll over on my left ear, I don't care if someone's screaming right next to my head in my right ear, I am deaf, so I can't hear. So I would be up in my barracks room, and my alarm would go off, and I just wouldn't hear it. So they would come in whenever I was 10 minutes late to the formation, and I can't be AWOL at this point unless I'm gone, obviously. They wouldn't be able to pull that mess. But they actually tried to demote me. My first time, I was about 3 months from getting out of the Army, my first time being late to a formation, and they actually tried to Article 15 and take my rank. I told them that I would push it to court-martial if they did, and they ended up dropping it. But other soldiers were being demoted, because you're supposed to get promoted at least one rank right before you get out. It doesn't assist you at all, but it looks better for your record, you know, if you go from specialist to corporal or from corporal to sergeant. It's kind of a, you know, especially if you're getting out for a medical retirement, it's kind of like thank you for your service, you know, and it's going to look a little bit better. Out of the 7 months I was there, I saw them demote 42 soldiers, all for missing either medical appointments or being late to a formation due to their injuries. Some soldiers were on extremely Valium, morphine, Ambien. These soldiers, you know, just didn't have the ability. They were injured or ill to wake up. Whenever you're asking the soldiers, I gotta hurry. The massive amounts of suicides, I'm going to tell you, has far more to do with the treatment a soldier receives once he has asked for help for PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Once you ask for help for post-traumatic stress syndrome, you are ridiculed beyond belief. I mean, if you claim PTSD, you're not allowed to leave post. You are forced to sleep on a cot down by the charge of quarters desks. You could just say PTSD, not suicidal. You could go in there and tell them that you have nightmares, and you are not allowed to leave the post, and this is until you claim that you no longer have PTSD. You're not allowed to leave the post, so you're basically on house arrest. You're not allowed to leave the barracks. You can't go eat at the chow hall. You have to have all food brought to you. You have to sleep on a cot downstairs out of your barracks room or out of your house. If you claim you are having nightmares at home, and you are seeking help for it, because if you have PTSD, a lot of the times they'll eventually, especially if you're on your second or third deployment, they will remove you from the Army. They will retire you, because after 3 deployments, if they send you back for a 4th one, chances are some bad things are going to happen. So if you claim PTSD until you lie, so they'll stop making your life a living hell to say you don't have PTSD, they ridicule you. You want to know how they ask soldiers if they have PTSD or not? They get our entire company, because that's how you do things in the Army, a company at a time, of anywhere from 120 to 200 soldiers, and they get you in a big auditorium, and whenever the guy comes out, he says, does anybody feel like they have any mental health issues, post-traumatic stress syndrome? Please raise your hand, and this is at the beginning of the hour or 2 hour long conference. Please raise your hand and then stand over here. So if you want to claim post-traumatic stress syndrome, they force you to stand in front of your buddies, 100 to 200 of them, and stand there for an hour and 2 hours so people can stare at you. This is what they do. And I'm going to talk about stop loss next, but this is how they treat soldiers. Stop loss program. You want to know what they did to get more soldiers for the stop loss program? They would lie and tell units right before they deployed, about 6 months, hey, you're about to get stop loss if you were getting out of the Army within the next 1.5 years. But what we can do is we can offer you this reenlistment package, which was actually about 10% of what they would normally get for reenlistment. And those soldiers, out of fear of stop loss, I'm going to continue this.